Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Smash JT. In this episode, I want to focus on the 5 most emotionally significant moments in Super Nintendo game history. Good game storytelling, and graphics that weren't up to par with today's standards, so you had to use your imagination to create the moments in your mind while you're playing the games. And for that reason, there are some really standout moments from the Super Nintendo collection that I want to talk about today. A common theme you're going to notice in all these scenarios referenced is that they feel real. They go beyond the realm of what a video game is supposed to be and takes you into real life. Oftentimes dealing with topics that's just you versus you and how you handle these situations in your own life.
Number 5.
Back in the day, developers had to use really creative techniques to express how they feel and to get that point across to the end user, the player, while they're playing these games. And the opera scene in Final Fantasy III is the perfect example of this. Because of the technical limitations with the Super Nintendo and not being able to have a full song sung out with vocals, the developer Square had to get pretty fancy with how they put this together. The opera takes place at the point where you're establishing contact with Setzer, the owner of the only functional airship in the world of balance. And you, the player Celis, has to impersonate the opera singer Maria, with whom Setzer is in love with. But in this case, even more important than the storyline surrounding why the opera is taking place, is how the opera unfolds while you're playing it. It disconnects the player from playing the game, and connects them with a quasi-interactive cutscene to make the player feel like they're actually part of something bigger than a video game. And I'm not sure if this is attributed to my youth, being younger back in the day, or if the graphics just weren't up to par to what today's games are, but for some reason, while playing the opera scene in Final Fantasy III, it didn't even feel like I was playing a video game anymore. It felt like these digitally animated characters came to life to create a more powerful experience than any video game could have ever given somebody. It felt real.
Number 4.
While it may not be the most popular game in the Super Nintendo library, Illusion of Gaia has a scene that stands out beyond anything else in the entire game. And that's the point where the main character gets stuck on a raft with the Princess Kara. And the thing with this scene was, unlike most video games, the point wasn't to get off the raft. The point was to deal with the experience being on the raft because you're stranded there with nowhere to go. It's just you, the girl, the raft, and the ocean. And while most games these days would kind of have a way for you to get off the raft and find a way away from it, there was no exit to this raft per se. You had to let the scene play out as it laid. But while playing through the game the first time, you had no idea that this was being forced upon you. You would think there was a way you could get off the raft or do something. And there wasn't. And at many points during this raft ride in the middle of the ocean, there's a lot of psychological questions that come up. The lead character Kara gets upset when you start attacking the fish in the water, but you're starving and she's saying no, don't hurt the fish because she's a vegetarian. And while playing through this part of the game, I had real emotions, feeling guilty for attacking these digital fish. So you're faced with the dilemma of starving to death or eating fish, and eventually she comes around to that. But it's not until more days pass before you figure that out. The scene lasts for a total of 28 days, and during that time, there are a number of different events and emotions that you both deal with while on the raft. The game didn't rush itself through that scene, and by doing so, it felt more real than it actually was.
Number 3.
Final Fantasy II had a crazy situation happen with 2 kids, Palom and Porom, a black mage and a white mage, that basically commit suicide to save everyone else. And you gotta remember, this took place way before Aeris in Final Fantasy VII and General Leo in Final Fantasy III, and I was a kid when I was playing this. So when I went through and got to this point in Final Fantasy II, where Palom and Porom have the walls closing in on them, and the entire party's gonna get squished if something doesn't happen, and they turn themselves to stone to hold the walls back. Just imagine what that felt like as a kid playing through a game to see this happen. It was insane. And even though obviously it was a video game and I knew it was even when I was younger, I felt a sincere sense of loss when they were gone from the party. That seems to be the running theme in Final Fantasy games. They're able to convey a sincere sense of loss in a video game.
Number 2.
In Earthbound, when Pooh... Yeah, his name's Pooh. Anyways, when Pooh underwent Moo training, the Moo training takes place in a small mountain-like peak in southeast of Dalam. Upon starting the training, you're told to sit still, and Pooh begins to be besieged by illusions and distractions, including one which tells him his master is calling out for him. If you succumb to the distraction, you fail the training and must start over. And in order to be successful, you need to focus and remain still, as you eventually enter an illusionary world. And when you get to this world, it's when things start to get really crazy. An enigmatic being repeatedly asks him if he minds if he destroys parts of his body, ranging from arms and legs to ears and his mind. And answering yes results in you losing your hit points all the way down to dying. While playing this game as a kid and using your imagination, telling you it's gonna rip off your arms and your legs and your ears and your mind, it's insane what they tell you in this part of the game. But it's a truly unique scene that stuck with me all this time, that went beyond a game and dealt with real life and meditation and what it takes to get in the zone. It was just wild.
Number 1.
Sticking with the theme of meditation, by far the most emotionally significant moment in a Super Nintendo video game for me was the Chrono Trigger campfire scene. And while a deep game, even on its surface, being Chrono Trigger dealing with time travel and emotions with family and life, this is where the game gets really serious with it, where they discuss memory being a form of time travel, which applies to real life in a way if you think about it. And part of the campfire scene is where Luca has the opportunity to go back in time to save her mom from having her legs torn apart in a machine. It deals with a wide range of emotions and gives a little glimpse into each of the characters' thought process. And ironically, it's the robot that asks the most human questions out of everyone during this point in time. They talk about the idea of life cycles, time repeating itself, humans' mistakes, and transcending their own eras. It's an incredible moment in this game, and I'd argue it's an incredible moment in gaming history, where there's an all-encompassing scene that deals genuinely with human emotions and combining an entire party together, talking about life in general and how it relates to humanity. It's one of the reasons that makes Chrono Trigger stand the test of time as one of the greatest games in history. I'm sure you guys may have different ones that vary widely from mine, but those are the ones that meant the most to me while I was growing up, and to an extent today as well. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this and what your most important moments in Super Nintendo games were. Let me know down in the comments below, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.